So, my name is Trent Dayton. For the past 2.5 years, I have been involved with the Marshall County Historical Society. I was the AmeriCorps member, but the program was since terminated, so now I am sort of a volunteer, sort of an employee, sort of waiting for other confirmation to know what I am. But, so basically what we do is probably very similar to what other historical societies do. We try to preserve the history of the county. We have a museum. We actually have two museums. So we have the Marshall County History Museum, which is the one that I manage. This has history on pretty much everything about the county. We have exhibits on just about everything. And then the other museum is a little bit different. This one is the Cockayne Farmstead. This was an 1850 farmhouse that has not been renovated since its last renovation in the 1890s. So everything on the inside, you can't really see it here, but everything on the inside is still original, including the furniture, all of the wallpaper. There are things that we're uncovering every day. Recently, we found out that the wood graining on the doors is not actually wood, it's painted on. And we are kind of guessing that the daughters that live there may have painted them. We don't really know.
That was a very common treatment in that time period. In the front part of this building, all the woodwork was originally done like that. Unfortunately, it has 17 layers of paint on top of that. But
and you can still see all of our woodwork. I forget the actual term for it. There's a term for it though. It's like wood graining or something.
Faux wood grain.
Yeah, But but we try to do events as much as we can. So we'll have meetings similar to this one. I was telling him that we had a tea party for the past few years up at the farmstead. That went pretty well. Everyone really loves it. I personally love it because of the lavender lemonade that we make. It's really good. So, and then we will also do other community things. So for example, coming up in September, we have our formerly known as the World War II weekend. It is now called Patriots and Heroes. But it is a full weekend that we set aside to honor the local veterans. It was specifically for World War II, but World War II was a while ago. So we kind of encompass all time eras now. We also, last year was our first year starting a farmer's market every Wednesday through the summer, and that went pretty well. We are going to be starting that up again here soon, probably next week or the week after. I forget exactly. I think the week after. But that's really fun. A lot of work, but a lot of fun. But anyways, that's kind of what we do. So I suppose I can talk a little bit about the county, I suppose. So our county has a very, very, very long history. Whenever you talk about the history of the county, a lot of people will start with the geology. I'm not a geologist, so I'm not going to start there. But I will start with the mound. So this I have, this is a watercolor of the Grave Creek Mound. It is the, oh gosh, hold on.
Did you guys just find that?
So yeah, this one was actually, I mentioned the time capsule. So recently we got a donation of a time capsule from 1919 of, it was in Moundsville High School. They took it out in the early 2000s, put it on display for like a day at the Masonic Lodge, and then we got it last year. So we went through, it's currently on display at the museum now, but this was in it. This actually has a really fun story because this one we pulled out and I recognized it immediately because we have pretty much a copy of it downstairs in the museum in the mound display. But the artist on that was unknown, so it is marked as unknown. But on the back of here, you can actually see that it was made by Sally Schoeker. And Sally, fun little fact, was originally Sally Cockayne, who grew up in this house. So that was pretty fun to find. But this mound is the largest mound of its type. It is over 2,000 years old. It is the largest surviving Adena mound, also the largest conical burial mound in the Western Hemisphere and or the world. I keep hearing both, but anyways, it's big. It's really big. There used to be mounds all around the county. There's actually one behind Cockayne. Most of them have been flattened, unfortunately, because a lot of people didn't know what they were. But this mound was discovered. It hadn't been there, but it was discovered in what year? In 1770 by Joseph Tomlinson. The Tomlinsons were the first family to move to what is now Moundsville. But he discovered it while he was just hunting one day. Quite the discovery, I would think. And then he didn't do anything with it, but the next generation dug into it. And then they opened a museum inside of the mound. So inside the mound, there are two burial chambers, a lower one and an upper one. The lower one was made into the first museum for the mound. For many reasons, that is very wrong, because it is a burial chamber. That museum eventually closed, and then the mound was actually sold to someone, and they put a bar on the top of the mound. So also that is not okay. So the bar is actually where the walking path comes from. So now there's a walking path to go on top of the mound. Best view of Moundsville that there is besides up in Greene.
It really is.
So it is really a sight to see. It changed hands a few more times. Also almost got destroyed until the Daughters of the American Revolution and the state saved it. And now there is the Delphi Neurona Museum, and it is also the state repository for all archaeology for the state of West Virginia. So there is a huge collection of archaeology stuff there. It's also just a really good museum, and I love the people that work there. So stop by, it's free. But anyways, so as I mentioned, the Tomlinsons, I forgot the picture of Joseph Tomlinson. He is one of the original, him and his brothers, Samuel and James. They moved to what was called Grave Creek then, which is Grave Creek Mound. But so they moved there. They established a little house. We have a picture of the house. This is after a bunch of renovations and after they had lived in it for a while. So over here would have been the original part of the house. So it was just a little log cabin, and then they expanded it. It was pretty common, especially for that area, it seems like. But this is actually after it was rebuilt, because the original house burned down. And then they rebuilt it, and then it got torn down for the Moundsville High School. So unfortunately, it is no longer there, but there is a plaque to where it was. Also, Moundsville High School is not there either, so thanks, guys. What was I saying? Anyway, so Joseph ended up founding Elizabethtown. Elizabethtown was named after his wife, Elizabeth. Very romantic, I think. I would be happy if someone named a town after me. Hint, hint. But he founded that in 1830, and in 1835 is when Marshall County split from Ohio County. Ohio County was like the entire northern panhandle and then down a little bit. So 1835, we split off, and Elizabethtown was actually named the county seat of Marshall County. So the first courthouse was actually in a little schoolhouse. It was only in there for about a year. And then they built the new courthouse in 1836. And then there's been some renovations to it. The most recent renovation was actually last year, where they expanded the entrance and added a little porch on top. So it's kind of cute. I wish that they still had the towers, but oh well. early on in the county's history, it was very agricultural. Later on, we get into industry, but for the most part, it was mostly farming and coal. Fun fact for you guys, I didn't know this until like a few months ago, but Marshall County actually produces the most coal in the state of West Virginia. We are the top coal producing county. We have 2 big coal mines, and all the other ones have 1. Except 2 in the Eastern Panhandle, because they don't make any, so losers. But, so, also, talking about mines, there was, recently we passed the 101st anniversary of the Benwood mine disaster. We actually did a podcast on that. If you guys are interested in learning about it, you can just go to our Facebook page. It's right there somewhere. It was very interesting to hear. You'll get to hear my lovely voice again. So, but anyways, so I mentioned farming. The Cockaynes were a farming family. So I have a few things from the Cockaynes. So this here is a picture of Carrie Cockayne. So she lived in what was Valley Farm. That was the original Cockayne house that was built in about 1798. The family kind of got really big, really fast. So they ended up, part of them moved away into what is now the Cockayne Farmstead, and then part of them stayed in Valley Farm. A lot of them moved to Iowa for some reason. But she and her sister, I believe, ended up inheriting Valley Farm. She is one of the last Cockaynes to live in Valley Farm. The other side of the Cockaynes, so the Farmstead side, they were pretty prominent. Valley Farm was too, to be honest. But a lot of them were named Samuel. Most of them were named Samuel, actually. So it's very confusing to try to figure out who's who. But they lived there for 4 generations in the farmstead. And then the 4 sisters, they all moved out. They had a brother who kept in the house. One of those sisters is the one that painted this. So everything's connected in Marshall County. But the brother, who everyone called Zan, because it was part of his middle name, he had kids. They fought in World War II, and Sam, the last Sam, was the last Cockayne to live in the farmstead. He did not touch it whenever he had it. So he fixed things, sort of, sometimes, but he never renovated, he never changed the wallpaper, he never did anything. He really, in his later years, he really just lived in the back 2 rooms. So we kind of keep it as it was, as he had it. So that means that everything from 1890s to like 1950s is the only stuff that's in there, with the exception of like a few things here and there. But it is pretty cool. We do tours of that place. So if you guys are ever in the area, stop by. I don't know if I'll give you a tour. If you request me, I can. But it's really neat. One of the sisters, another sister, Irina, she married the editor of the Moundsville Echo, which is still the newspaper in Moundsville. And right here I have a dulcimer that was made by her son, surprise, Sam Shaw. So this was made by Sam. Sam was a character. I absolutely love hearing stories about Sam and his sister because everyone will say they were incredibly scatterbrained, but everything had its place and everything went smoothly somehow, which I relate to so heavily. Anyways, it's about the Cockaynes. We're kind of going through a sort of history of the county, but I like talking about individual topics, so, you know, offshoots. So now we're going to go back to when the county was founded. Whenever the county was founded, that was also, well, it was right before West Virginia became a state. So West Virginia became a state in 1863. Thank you, I thought it was 3. For a while, the capital was actually up in Wheeling. Then it went down to Charleston, and then Wheeling again. Now it's back in Charleston. But originally it was Wheeling. And at that point, they did not have any infrastructure for their own state, like a penitentiary, because that was in Virginia. So for a while, they decided to just house all the inmates in the local county jails and all that. That did not work. So pretty soon after, they started building the West Virginia Penitentiary, which has become very known recently, especially with Annabelle stopping by recently. Don't know if you guys heard about that. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of messages about that. But so they decided that they need a prison. So in 1866, they brought in a group of inmates to a little stockade that was, well, oh my gosh, what's the building? A little prison camp, basically, from the Civil War, more or less. And then they started to build the penitentiary around them. So the inmates built their own prison. They started with the North Gate, which is the oldest part, and then went around to the cell blocks and all that. And as time went on, they brought more inmates in so that they could help, obviously. But the penitentiary is pretty neat because it was fairly self-sufficient. It had its own power plant. It also had its own coal mine, so they didn't need to worry about power. They grew their own food on the prison farm. They even had exports because they made quite a lot of things. So originally, I know that there was a lot of bricks that were made there, but they kind of expanded into just about anything, including like leatherwork. They sold a lot of whips from there. But then the inmates could kind of just make what they wanted. So right here, there is a wallet that was made by an inmate from the penitentiary. It's a very nice wallet, actually. I also have one in my personal collection. I don't use it, obviously, but it's very nice. They also made all sorts of woodwork, including this, which is in my personal collection. It's actually from Dave.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about his collection. So this is a boat made by inmates, well, one inmate, I believe in the 1930s, but I love it. It is very scary to try to clean because all of these strings are very thin. But yeah, it ran on its own. They had a whole bunch of stuff going on. It was mildly a community center. People would go in for like baseball games with the inmates and all that type of stuff. You could go to the penitentiary and buy an inmate-made dining table and dining room set and anything. We have some tables at the museum that are on loan from Steve. And then, so a lot of people in Moundsville actually have inmate-made furniture. I do not yet. There are also very talented artists in there. So whenever you go through the penitentiary, the artwork in there is all original. It was made by inmates, and some of them are crazy. I do have inmate artwork. I did not bring it, but I do have it. It was not all sunshine and rainbows, though. The penitentiary was actually put on the Department of Justice's, like the U.S. Department of Justice's top 10 most violent prisons. So as time went on, the living conditions kind of worsened, and they were not happy about that, the inmates. There was a point where there were 3 people in a cell. It was a 2-bunk cell, 5 by 7. So one of them had one bunk, the other had the other bunk, one of them had the floor. Unless they wanted to make friends with another inmate with a bunk, but I wouldn't. They decided to basically double the capacity of that penitentiary. Around the 50s, the new wall was built, well, completed. It started pretty far earlier than that, but the World War II steel shortage kind of hit that down a good bit. But they like doubled their capacity with new wall. The violence did not stop though. So pretty much whenever you go in there, if you look somewhere, someone probably died there. It's a lot. So if you guys are into spooky stuff, it is also pretty consistently ranked as one of the top 10 or 5 most haunted locations in all of America. So it is very active. As someone who worked there for a few years, it happens every single day. There is something to the point you just kind of have to ignore it or you're not going to get any work done. So it is crazy. But the violence there, all the murders and all that, was not just set aside for the inmates. There were wardens that were not that kind either. So Warden John Peck is infamous for his own torture device that he made in the penitentiary called the kicking jenny. I will spare you guys most of the details because it is horrifying, but he would strap an inmate to a bent over piece of board and then whip them until either he or the officer he assigned to them was just so overcome with exhaustion they just had to stop, or the inmate died, whichever came first. I'm fairly certain that there was a point where he was averaging, I want to say it was like 2 deaths a month for a year or two. The state kind of was like, hey, you gotta stop that. And then they blocked off the area of the basement that it was. They didn't say that he took it down. I'm convinced that it's still down there, but we haven't seen it. So it's behind a wall if it is. But yeah, pretty crazy. There are also just countless murders. Anyone that's heard about the penitentiary has heard about Red Snyder, stabbed over 30 times. Crazy. R.V. Wall, he was also attacked in the boiler room by inmates. If you are into ghosts, those are 2 inmates that you might be able to talk to every now and then. Maybe careful. But so the living conditions really didn't get better. And in 1986, the riot led by the Avengers gang in there was the biggest riot that the prison had. By the way, I really love the penitentiary, so if you can't tell. But it was pretty much over the living conditions. At that point, whenever you were eating your meal, you would be sitting there and a bug might drop into your food just because of the poor sanitation and all that. So the inmates took over the entire prison for 2 days, had Governor Arch Moore come up and kind of lead the the They did take a lot of hostages. I have not heard of any of them actually being hurt, so that's good. The inmates there didn't want to hurt people, they wanted to live better. So they had a very long list of demands, but they only got one, which was one of the main ones. They got a brand new cafeteria. But they didn't use it for long because just like 10 years later, the state of West Virginia Supreme Court deemed it cruel and unusual punishment to be sent there. They actually closed it down, and that is why it is now a tour place.
What year was Nosville closed? Was it 90?
95.
95?
Yeah. I also forgot to mention, to kind of give you an idea of just how scary that place actually was, there was a man, Shirley Hamlet from Fayette County. He went there, I believe in 1902-ish, I think. He arrived at the penitentiary, was scared, and he died within 24 hours of nervous exhaustion. Basically, the penitentiary literally scared him to death, and he died. So yeah, terrifying place to be. I'm very glad that I would not have been there. So I'm a good kid, I like to think. So yeah, that was crazy history of the penitentiary. It is one of my favorite topics I could probably go on for absolutely ages about everything there, but I will spare you all that. Meet me after though. These two here, I did not write down on my list, but I thought it was important to mention because of something that just came up about it. So this is Reynolds Memorial Hospital. It is the hospital in Marshall County that we have. It was, I want to say recently, but not super recently. It was bought out by WVU Medicine. Surprise, they own all the hospitals in West Virginia. They've been around since the 1890s. It was established by Archdeacon Spur. He used money from Emily Van Buren Reynolds to make the hospital. For a very long time, this is Emily by the way, for a very long time, it was said that Emily Van Buren Reynolds was the daughter of Martin Van Buren, the president. That was said for a very long time. It is actually on Reynolds' website that it is. However, I did some research, I Googled, and it did not come up with anything because we had something to do with Reynolds. We had a program for Reynolds. So I wanted to get more pictures of her, but I couldn't find any. And I was like, oh, well, president's daughter, there should be some. But then I was looking and it said he only had 4 boys. And I'm like, well, what about Emily? So I was like, I don't think it was her. And then I did some genealogy stuff, found her. Her dad was a colonel, I think, Michael Van Buren. I also, to double check, I contacted the White House and I contacted the Van Buren house to make sure she is not the daughter of Martin Van Buren. But she is a pretty cool person because her family, the Van Burens, were from New York City, and they were known for their farm in the middle of the city. I had never heard of that before. I thought that was super cool. It was literally a farm in the middle of the city, and they were known for it, and they were very rich too, don't get me wrong. But I thought that was super cool, and I'm like, I think that story is cooler than the president, personally, but now we kind of move away around like the 1900s, we kind of move away from agriculture. Agriculture is still a big thing. It is still today a big thing in the county. But around like the late 1800s, early 1900s, we had a huge industry boom. Huge. So what most people will know from Marshall County is the Fostoria Glass Company. If you guys are into fancy glass like I am, then you know all about them. So they moved to Moundsville in 1892. They are originally from Fostoria, Ohio, but they kind of ran out of their natural gas over there, so they couldn't heat the furnaces anymore. So the city of Moundsville, I believe, gave them an incentive. I forget exactly what it was, but they had them move here so that they were close to the river if they wanted to ship stuff. But also they had really easy access to coal because, like I said, we are the top coal producing county in the entire state. So cheap, easy coal was mostly why they moved there. But they were there for a very long time. They are very, very well known in glass. They actually have sent Fostoria to the White House. So there's Fostoria in the White House. I have it marked down here somewhere. Eisenhower, Kennedy, Nixon, Ford, Reagan, all of them had Fostoria. So that's pretty neat. This ewer I have here is Fostoria. It is an earlier Fostoria. It is probably one of my favorite pieces of Fostoria that I have ever seen. I also found some on Facebook Marketplace, but the lady has not responded to me yet, so oh well. But they're mostly known for their American pattern, which I have a piece of my personal collection here. So this is the American pattern. A lot of people also call it the Cubist pattern. I think that they sold off the American pattern to other companies. So I don't know if all this type of pattern is Fostoria, but a good bit is. But they were known because it was very pretty, very good quality. And the employees that worked at Fostoria absolutely loved it. They described it as a second family. They would like celebrate each other's accomplishments. There was like a employee newsletter that was like, this person had a baby, make sure you tell them congratulations. This person's kids graduated college, be sure you tell them congratulations. They had like sports teams. They would go for like little barbecues and all that type of stuff. So it was really a really tight-knit group of people. Unfortunately, around the 1980s, I believe, around the 1980s, the profits kind of started to dip, just because there was a lot more competition. And then in 1986, unfortunately, Fostoria closed its factory. So they do not make Fostoria anymore, but Moundsville is the home of the Fostoria Glass Museum. I personally have not been in there, don't tell them, but I have heard it is very nice, and from what I know of the Fostoria people that run it, I don't have any doubts. So I need to stop there. So also another really big one that you guys might be familiar with is Marx Toys. So the Louis Marx Toy Company was founded in 1901. No, it wasn't. It was founded in 1919. I skipped down on my list. They were the largest toy manufacturer in the world. They did train cars, they did action figures, play sets, all that type of stuff. Their most famous ones are probably Rock'em Sock'em Robots and the Big Wheel tricycle. They bought the factory in Glendale, which is right above Moundsville. They bought that factory. It was originally for the Fokker Aircraft Company, so it was made to make airplanes, and then they made it into a toy factory. So it's a big factory. The factory is still down there. It's, I think, Highline Warren now. I don't know what they make, but it is huge. But it was their most productive plant. At their peak, they employed around 2,000 employees and could pump out around 1 million toys a day. That's crazy numbers. Big wheels, I'm fairly certain all of them were made in the Glendale plant. So that is a little fun fact. But in the 1970s, profits kind of started to decline. Factory was sold off, and then 1980, market closed down. You'll notice a trend. This here is some Marx Toys. These ones, very funny, because I went into the museum one day and I used the back door to get into the museum, and then I just unlocked the front door whenever we're open. And the archivist at the library, who is one of our board members, he came in and he was like, "Hey, why is there a box outside of the front door?" And I'm like, "What do you mean there's a box outside the front door?" So I went out, and there it was just a box of Marx Toys, and I have been referring them to as the orphan toys. I don't know where they came from.
That's happened here. We've also had people leave boxes of stuff by the dumpster. And I've not known it until they said, "Oh, did you get the box of stuff I left?" "No, I didn't. Where'd you leave it by the dumpster?" I was like, "The trash guy probably took it."
Yeah, we have paperwork, people, please.
Yeah.
Please come in and sign paperwork.
Yeah.
We won't judge you for getting rid of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, Marx is a very, very well-known one. There was a piece that we have on display at the museum. It is currently on loan, so I didn't want to bring it. But it is actually a train station set, and it's very interesting. It is probably one of my favorite pieces because the train station name is actually Glendale, because they were in Glendale, and I got really excited whenever I saw that. So maybe a little too excited, but the last industry that I'll talk about, we had so many. I need you guys to realize this. Especially glass. Glass was super popular all along the Ohio River. So you had like Imperial, Fenton, all those were just right there. But another pretty popular one was US stamping. So they made enamel, cookware, and all that type of stuff. They were founded in 1901. They had very good quality enamelware. Actually, people still use it today. Actually, my aunt. So this is a teapot from U.S. Stamping, and I bring this one because this is the same type that my aunt still uses today. I think she uses it as a simmer pot mostly, but I thought it was really funny because she came into the museum one day and she said, "I own that." And she bought it from like Goodwill. So you can still find U.S. Stamping pretty easily in the area. Same with Fostoria. You can find so much Fostoria in the area. Glass collectors. if you collect glass, go to Moundsville. What? Oh, so they were mostly found around West Virginia, but you could find them other places. But from what I have seen, it was mostly just around West Virginia. You guys might have sold them here. I don't know, but I don't know how far they went. I know they were popular at Moundsville. That's what I know. But so they had around 300 employees. After World War II, they started to make refrigerator, not refrigerators, but like accessories for refrigerators and stove things. With all of the industry, the people felt a very great sense of pride in their work. So it was not uncommon to have multiple generations of one family work at Fostoria, work at Marx, work at U.S. Stamping. It was kind of like, well, my grandfather did it, my dad did it, I'm doing it, my kid's gonna do it. So it was a whole big thing, kind of really messed it up whenever they closed. But around the 1970s, U.S. Stamping was facing pretty tough competition. And then 1977, they closed, just like all the other ones. But like I said, they still, like a lot of people still use U.S. Stamping. My family, every other family in Moundsville pretty much. But after the industry kind of closed down, Moundsville kind of settled down a whole lot. Population declined. Same with the county overall. I feel like that rings true for a lot of counties where they were absolutely booming. Now they're kind of just chill. But now we're kind of going more towards tourism with the penitentiary and then the mound. Grandview Park is a pretty nice place. I don't go up there often because I live there, so I can just go up whenever. But we are kind of trying to go more into tourism. We are also trying to encourage more, at least I'm trying to encourage more business, like small businesses to move there. But there are, I feel like that we're kind of on the rise again, so I'm very happy about that. But overall, there's the history of the county, guys.